So hello everybody, welcome to this Facebook Live on the topic of I've done brain training and I didn't get the results I wanted. I'll explore reasons for that, possible solutions, and at the end I'll talk about the resilience group coaching that I run that I'll be starting in a couple of weeks. So you can decide if that might help you. First question is, does anyone spot the issue with the statement? One of the things with this statement, I've done brain training and I didn't get the results I wanted, is that it implies that you've tried using the tools and you're not using the tools now. And it might be that you feel like you've done your best using the tools but it hasn't worked for you, or it might be that actually there is scope to keep using the tools. An alternative statement is, hi, I can see and hear you, thanks for letting me know, that you could still use the tools and that you are open to the idea that it is possible that you will get results by continuing to use the tools. So a few guidelines whilst talking about this topic. If you've got questions, there are some limitations in terms of how much I can address personal issues in a Facebook Live, but do feel free to ask questions. Hi, I can hear you. Great, thanks for letting me know. Maybe if you have done a brain training program, don't mention the actual program you did. Avoid criticizing individuals. It's okay to comment on practice, I think. So, for example, rather than saying, oh, this practitioner, and naming them, just say, well, actually, the practitioner made this suggestion that didn't quite work for me. Okay. So I want to consider for a moment what happens if a person does brain training program and doesn't get the results they want. Question is, do they get into the blame game? Blame often isn't useful. And I've seen people who've done brain training programs blame themselves. I'll talk about that more in a bit. But what's very interesting is when I talk to students who've done the training, they're often insightful about what didn't work for them. But often they don't trust their intuitions and they blame themselves. Whereas actually I believe that the vast majority of the time it's not their fault. Okay, so please don't do that. Don't blame yourself. Sometimes people blame the practitioner. I would challenge people to evaluate, what did the practitioner do that was helpful? What did the practitioner do that wasn't helpful to you? No practitioner is going to be perfect, and not every person is going to click with their practitioner. I'd really encourage people, if you do feel that there were issues, to talk to a practitioner, if you feel you can, about both those areas, what was helpful, what wasn't helpful. Ask for a brief chat or email them about the issues that you're having. If they're responsive in a positive way, if they're receptive to what you're saying and you feel you can work with them, great. If you're not, consider your next steps, and we'll talk more about that at the end. Sometimes people blame the program. They say the program wasn't right. Now that might be accurate. But again, I really encourage people to consider, what did you learn that was useful, that you could carry on using? And what didn't work for you? Sometimes I have seen practitioners blame the student, the trainee. As I say, blame isn't useful. Sometimes they'll say, oh, the person's not using the tools or working hard enough. I think we need to avoid that. It's more useful to diagnose the issue, what isn't working, and work together to find solutions. And if the trainee or student isn't able to identify solutions, then it's the job of the coach to step in and make some suggestions, and for the student to decide what they think is going to work best for them. So, question, what do you think is the reason for not getting results you wanted? Do feel free to put your thoughts in the chat. Let's just see if there's any more comments come through. But I'm going to share some of the things people have said to me, their explanations for why they haven't got the results they wanted. First reason, they say, well, maybe I've got some condition that hasn't been diagnosed yet, and maybe that's what's getting in the way. If that's the case, I encourage them to really consider what is the possibility of that, and also what's the probability of that. You know, if you've been to the doctor and they've done tests, albeit sometimes doctors don't do tests that they should carry out, and it's really worth, if you haven't got hold of it, reading Dr. Sarah Myhill's books, because she talks about some of the tests that people with mecfs should ask their doctor for. And it might be the reality that sometimes people have got a condition that is impacting on them that needs addressing. I've been working with someone recently who's got a physical condition as a result of taking medication, and you know that is an issue. But what that person was recognising is that there are still things that they can do to influence their healing. Okay, and if I have talked to some clients who over worry that they might have something that hasn't been diagnosed. That is not a helpful pattern, you know, and that in itself can keep you in a state of stress, and that can stop your body from doing the healing it needs to do. Sometimes people say, oh, maybe I just haven't found the right supplement, okay, and that's a possibility, but I also know lots of people are able to recover their health without taking loads of supplements. It might be that there's some supplement that is the magic pill, but you know, it's possible that that isn't going to be the answer. Sometimes people say, you know, I have just got a lot on my plate, you know, my hands are full and I'm not getting the support that I need. And the reality is that we're all different. Some people have got a lot on their plate. Some people are dealing with challenges that others aren't dealing with. However, there are probably some other people dealing with the same challenges, and they are responding in a resourceful way. So be open to learn and be inspired by others who might be in a similar situation to you, who are, you know, doing their best and responding in a resourceful way. Sometimes people say, well, maybe the training wasn't a good fit for me, and I don't feel I got the help to make it work for me. Now, it is true that sometimes people do need a tailored approach, and when I work with someone, sometimes I have to help them personalize the tools so that they get them to work for them where, you know, they were using the tools as they had been taught, and for some reason that wasn't working. So I do think it's the job of the practitioners to help you find solutions if there are some sticking points. Another reason is the person said, I just didn't feel that I had good rapport with my practitioner. As I mentioned earlier, you know, not everyone is going to get on with everyone. So I'm sure there might be some people who I work with, it might not, you know, we might not click, and they might decide, you know, if they have a introductory chat that I'm not the person for them. That's fine. We're not going to get on with everyone. But the question to consider is, do you feel comfortable with your practitioner? Do you feel safe? I do believe that in order to make change, we need to feel safe. Do you feel they're answering your questions? Have they created an environment where you feel comfortable asking questions? You know, students have said to me that they were told, you ask too many questions. Now, whilst it might be the case that some students overanalyze, and you know, in the 12 years I've been doing this work, there are some people who ask lots of questions, but I feel like my job as a coach is to help them with that, to get them to I remember working with someone who was asking lots of questions, and so we actually worked on that and addressed the underlying issues, which was to do with fear of not getting it right, you know, not being good enough, etc. And once we dealt with that, they were able to be more relaxed and start to trust their own intuition. So it's my job to help them with that and address the questions. If you're working with a practitioner, which style would you prefer? So one, would you prefer the practitioner leading from the front saying, come on, keep up with me, this is the pace we're going at, or pushing you from behind saying, come on, you need to go faster? Or would you like someone who walks alongside you, someone who you feel is helping to understand your situation and walk at your pace and lead you in the right direction? Sometimes, so you know, consider that. Let's see, there's a few comments here. Okay, so a few hellos. So nice to hear and see you. If you ever visit Las Vegas, love to meet you in person. Well, I will be doing a tour at some point, might be next year. So I'll let you know. All right, so the next thing is that sometimes people just need more time to implement what they're learning. And, you know, as far as I'm concerned, it's not a race. I want you to consider that when you were learning to walk, you went at your own pace. And I really encourage people to approach, you know, brain training in the same way, that you just always do your best, always look at how you can just make small improvements each day, but ultimately go at a pace that suits you. Sometimes people say, actually, I just need more support. I need more help implementing what I've learned. And one thing that I ask people is when they've done brain training programs is it an online program or a face-to-face program? Now, some people do get great results from doing an online program where they're just watching videos and reading materials. But I also know that some people need help to help them spot the unhelpful patterns that are blind spots they're not picking up. Okay, so some people just do need a bit more help. Another reason why maybe people don't get the results they want is, and people have said this to me, that I found the training, the tools a bit too complicated. Tony Robbins, who's a personal development expert, says if something is complicated, people won't use it. So consider that. Is it too complicated? I like simple, okay? I like to make things as simple as possible. Next thing is that people said, or something I've spotted actually sometimes, is people have not bought in to the approach. They don't believe that the approach will work for them. And, you know, there is science that tells us that being in a state of fight or flight inhibits the body's capacity to heal. And certainly some of the brain training programs that I am familiar with work on the premise that we need to switch off the fight or flight mechanism in order for the body to heal. If you don't buy into that, then, you know, the program can still work if you use it, but it's better if you do actually buy into that and believe that perspective. If you don't, then it's just going to be more of an uphill struggle. Our beliefs can get in the way. Sometimes people say that, have I gone back? That some of the questions they've asked, some of the advice they've been given just didn't feel like it was a good fit for them. So some of the things people have said to me that they've been told is, you've done the training, just act like a normal, healthy person. So let's ask you, what is the problem with that statement, do you think? Of being told, you've done the training, act like a normal, healthy person, do what a normal, healthy person would do. What's the problem with that statement? I'm going to take a little swig of drink. I'll give you a moment to answer. I know there's a bit of a delay between me speaking and you hearing me, so I'll give you a moment to answer that question. Just put your thoughts in the chat. What's the problem with that statement? You've done the training, just act like a normal, healthy person. I won't read any names out, so just feel free to put your thoughts about that statement. What's the issue with that statement? Let's just have a look. Comments. My largest challenge is dealing with the feeling of frustration in losing steam. I have done the brain work online and in person, but still feeling frustrated, even knowing that after planning events to best deal with energy cycles, I don't get to the end of the project in the time I planned. Okay, so what I would say in relation to that comment, okay, is that human beings aren't very good at predicting how long something's going to take. So actually, one of the hallmarks of resilience is the ability to be flexible. Okay, so if you find that you don't finish a project in the time planned, it might be that either you've underestimated how long that task needs. I was going to say something else. What else was I going to say? It's gone out of my head. It'll come back. And you need to learn to be more patient with yourself. Okay? So that's one thing. Any other thoughts about this statement that I've shared? You've done the training. Act like a normal, healthy person. Okay, can't see any comments yet, so I'm just going to share my thoughts, but feel free to type in yours. My response to that is actually the coach needs to ask another question, which is, what score would you give for your health out of 10? So if someone's saying, well, currently I'm a 5 out of 10, with 10 being a normal, healthy person, then acting like a 9 or 10 is just going to, set you up for a fall, okay? If you're a 5 or a 6, then you need to do what a 5 or 6 can do. And maybe this might relate to that previous comment. You need to set your goals and targets in relation to your current abilities. There's no point trying to behave like a normal, healthy person if you're not quite yet at that point, okay? So another comment that people have been told are things like, you only need to rest 20 minutes a day. Any thoughts about that statement? What's the issue with that statement? Again, I'm going to pause for a moment, give you a chance to put your thoughts in the chat. There's a few of you on the call, so let's have some interaction. It'd be good to see what your thoughts are about that. What's the problem? What's the issue with that statement? You only need to rest 20 minutes a day. It relates to actually the previous statement that I've just talked about. I would ask, what is a baseline for a healthy person? I rest 20 minutes per hour. Yeah, so what I would also add is, what is the baseline for you at this point in time? Okay? No one else knows what you need. So I don't think it's an appropriate comment for a practitioner to make, to be telling you how much rest you need. The only person who can judge that is you. Okay? Question I do ask people, because sometimes get into a bit of a spin over the topic of rest. I say to people, is spending time relaxing, meditating, visualizing going to do you any harm, or is it going to do you good? So another comment's come through. Let's have a look. Depends how busy you've been, what you've been doing, how much sleep you've had. I know healthy people who enjoy an afternoon nap. Yeah, it depends on your stage of recovery. Exactly. So, you need to discern what you need at that point in time. Don't let other people decide that for you, okay? So, and I know I did a Facebook Live on this topic a while back, and people, when I was sharing this, they were saying, oh my goodness, that's not what I was told. I wish someone had told me that, what you're sharing with me now, okay? So and sometimes people have asked me the question, should I rest or rewire the brain? Getting into quality states of calm is rewiring the brain. Okay, so as I say, you have to decide what you need. I haven't worked with a single person who said having a rest kept me stuck. As they got better through calming their physiology and accessing powerful states, including peak states, calm, confidence, energy, they started to feel better. I want you to consider that based on research, the American Olympic team get their team members to sleep 9 hours a day and to rest during the day. And there is an athlete who's written a book on the topic of rest. And he said, what I realise now is that I did not understand the importance of rest. Okay. And also consider the Dalai Lama meditate. So if meditation is good enough for him, taking some pauses in the day to meditate, to get into a nice, calm, physiological state, then that's good enough for me. All right, so a couple of people just joined. Hello. So we've covered a lot of ground. So I want you to consider what you need in order to move forward. Do you need a fresh approach? Do you need to approach things in a slightly different way? Do you need to do more training? That might be a possibility. Or do you need help with implementation? That's your call, it's your decision. But I'll share some points which may give you some food for thought. Tony Robbins, who I mentioned earlier, says that often it's not information that's the issue. It's implementation. And getting help with implementation is key. This is what he says. He says, for example, if information was the issue, the majority of people would be a healthy weight because people know they need to eat less and exercise more. But people don't do it, okay? So I want to talk about the work of K. Anders Ericsson, who is a Swedish psychologist and professor of psychology at Florida State University. He is internationally recognized as a researcher in the psychological nature of expertise and human performance. He spent 30 years studying people who are exceptional at what they do and trying to figure out how they got to be so good at what they did. He talks about Mozart. As I understand it, Mozart's father at the time was the best music teacher in all of Europe. People came to learn the pianoforte from all over Europe to get taught by Mozart's dad. Okay, so Mozart did have a bit of a head start, and actually his sister was also very talented, but because she was a woman she didn't get the same exposure. And also consider that Mozart's early compositions apparently were terrible, and it's only when I think he got to his 20s that he started to produce work that was considered to be of good quality. Consider Boris Becker. Okay, he says that when he was a youth he wasn't talented. There were boys in his team, in his community, who were much better than him, and he was actually matched with the girls. But he said, I worked hard and I listened to the coaches and I applied what I learned. Okay, so I want to talk about the five of the elements that K. Anders Ericsson has identified. So the comment that's come through, I think we have loads of information. Use what we already know. Yeah, that's true for people who have done some form of brain training. Obviously, if you haven't done any, or if you've done something that you just feel you haven't got to grips with, then that it might be the case. You just need a bit more help. But yeah, I think it's really important to really make sure you are implementing what you already know. So the 5 elements that K. Anders Ericsson identified. Number 1 is deliberate practice. We need to make it a habit of practicing what we're learning. Give you some examples of that in a minute. So, and we need bite-sized learning. So let me explain what I mean by that. Imagine going to the crap academy of piano, where basically they say to you, there's the piano, there's the books, off you go. And they get terrible results. No one ever passes grade 1 and they don't get any further. So there you are, you're in this room with this pile of books saying, well, am I doing it right? How should I approach this? What schedule should I have? Now consider the child who has one lesson every week. They practice for 15 minutes each day, or 5 days out of 7. Where would that child be a year from now? They would have progressed. This child knows what to do and they know what to focus on right now. Okay. The next piece is that we need course correction. We need feedback to keep us on track. I remember taking my daughter for piano lessons when she was in her, I think she was about 12. And I used to sit in on the lessons. And I found it really interesting to watch the teacher, who was a great teacher. Because what she would say is, that bit you just done is great. And that bit at the end was really great. I think we need to let's work on that little bit in the middle to get it as good as those other pieces. So there was never any criticism. She encouraged her, she supported her. And sure enough, you know, a year after she'd started, she was playing piano with both hands. She was playing, you know, much better than I could, just because she'd been having those lessons each week. She'd been practicing. She'd been progressing. And the next component is what we call just-in-time learning, where you just learn the bit you need right now, okay? And this is different to just-in-case learning, okay? So this is, you know, if you think of a squirrel, squirrels gather nuts just in case. But people often approach development, whether it's personal development, business development, like a squirrel. They buy this course and then they buy that course and then they move on to the next thing. I remember going to see Deepak Chopra in London, and I was sitting next to this young woman who was telling me that her father and his friends had just come back from 2 weeks in Hawaii with Tony Robbins. And they went straight from that workshop to the Deepak Chopra workshop. And she was saying they literally go from one workshop to the next. And they don't spend time absorbing what they've learned. You know, they literally just keep moving on to the next thing. Now, I'm sure that's something I've certainly done, both in personal development and business development. Well, I've got a pile of courses, some of which I have hardly looked at. And I was tempted a few months ago to buy a course. In fact, I did buy a course and then I thought, this is ridiculous. I don't need this right now. I've still got lots to implement. So I actually got a refund on the course. They didn't actually block my access to the course. So little question of conscience, should I look at that course at my leisure when I've got time or not? You feel free to leave your comments. But anyway, let's see, any other comments? Someone's saying they just found me. Sorry, yeah, couldn't find you at first. Sorry about that. Glad to see that you've joined us. As I say, the replay will be available. So the next piece, so that's just in case approach, okay? So the next piece is that Kay Anders Ericsson identified is the benefits of being in a tribe, is that you can learn from each other and help each other. So for example, if you go to a dojo, martial arts community, the more advanced students teach the beginners. And in doing so, they deepen their understanding. And this supports their learning, but also their sense of self. And one of the things I love about, working in groups is that benefit. So as I said, or maybe I haven't, but in terms of my mecfs journey, one of my reflections is that actually I needed more help with the implementation. Okay, so I had the tools, but I just needed help fine-tuning, using the tools to help me move forward. And I realized that actually working with a coach would have made a difference. And I now have a coach. Now this is working on business and personal development. We have weekly group calls where we can ask questions, have them answered, and we talk about how we're progressing. And I've been working with this coach for about a year and a half now, and it's really helped me move forward. So I'm going to take a quick swig. Let's see if there's any more comments. I can tend to do that, gathering so much information and many courses. Yeah, so you're a squirrel. You love learning. There's nothing wrong with that, but we have to also make sure we're implementing. All right, so I want to just very briefly talk about the resilience group coaching that I run. I'm going to be running another cycle in the next couple of weeks. I think I've run 2 or 3 cycles. Yeah, 3 cycles actually. And I'll tell you very briefly how it works. So in that session, each person is asked some quick fire questions. What is a win you've had in the last week? What is something you've learned in the last week? And then the third question is, what do you need right now? And each person gets 10 minutes each week to explore one issue around mecfs that they're dealing with. And we'll spend some time identifying some simple steps for them to focus on for the following week. And if they want, they can review their progress the following week. And at the end of the call, each person shares their key takeaways from the time they've had, but also the takeaways that they've gleaned from listening to others. Gave up squirreling. It's overwhelming. Excellent. I do recognise that it's something I've had to watch. So a couple of comments that people have shared with the, doing the resilience group coaching. It was really worthwhile. I feel like I've come a long way over the course of the 12 weeks. I have better overall energy levels and better able to manage my recovery journey in a positive and constructive way. Another comment was, I've loved the sense of community and support. And I have said this in the group before, I love doing the one-to-one work that I do with people. I have to say, doing the group coaching is the highlight of my week, because it's fantastic to not only work with people and see them get benefit from that, but for people to get benefit from being part of the community, seeing that other people are asking similar questions that they would have asked, and they're getting benefit from that. And they're also getting the benefit of getting to know people in a different way than, for instance, interacting on a Facebook group. And some of the people in the groups have actually formed little WhatsApp groups, and they talk to each other daily, which I think is fantastic. So they are creating their own tribes, their own support networks. So I talked very briefly about the practicalities of that. So the cost for the 12-week program is £240. So that works out £20 a week. As I say, you're getting around 15 minutes each, but you're also getting to hear other people. There is a concessionary rate, and you have the option of spreading payment. So this is for people who have financial challenges, because I really don't want to exclude people as far as possible based on their financial situation. So if you want to find out about that, those options, then do message me. The maximum group size is going to be 3 or 4 people max. Okay. Initially, I was allowing it 5 people, but that meant we went on for about an hour and a quarter, sometimes an hour and a half, which was just a bit too long for some people. So for instance, if we have a group of 3, then usually it's going to be 3/4 of an hour, maximum of an hour. And you can trial it for 3 weeks. And if you decide it's not for you, you get a full refund. No hard feelings, okay? I really want it to be something that you do because you actually get value from it. So if you've got any questions about that, American fee question mark. So that's pounds, all right, so it would be in dollars. But as I say, there is a concessionary rate if you do feel you need a bit more help. I don't want to exclude people. You know, I'm happy, I do want to be paid a fair rate for what I do for those people who could afford it. But if you are financially challenged, do contact me and, we can talk about concessions and payment plans. So if you are interested, PM me, send me a personal message on Facebook or email me at the email address support@mecfsexplored.com. So let's just see if there are any other questions. Dates. So it's going to be 2 weeks from now. It's not going to be next week. It's going to be starting the week after. For those people who are interested, I'm going to get you to fill in a doodle poll. So I'm going to offer a selection of times and dates, and you can opt for the dates and times that suit you, and we will set up the groups based on when the most people can make the time. So for example, one of the groups I would run at 4 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, British Summer Time. One of the groups was 9 a.m. in the morning because I had someone in Australia who wanted to participate in the groups. So, I'm trying to make it work for everyone depending on where you are in the world. So if you've got any other questions, pop them in the chat. Do PM me if interested. Sometimes when people PM me, Facebook doesn't always let you know. So if I don't respond, please do follow me up by sending me an email to support@mecfsexplored.com or tag me in the group. And if you're watching this video and you're not in my group, MECFS Explored, click the link on the top right if you're watching this on my Facebook page, or the contact details will be below this video if you're watching on YouTube. So let's see any more questions. Pop them in the chat now. Otherwise, we'll end with a very brief relaxation. Maybe we'll start the relaxation, and if you have got any questions, just tag me or send me a private message. All right, so what I'd like to do is just close your eyes and we'll do a very brief relaxation. So what I want you to do is just to make yourself comfortable, ensure that your arms and hands and legs and feet are in a comfortable position, and close your eyes. And we'll just spend 2 minutes doing a relaxation exercise. If you have a preferred relaxation exercise, then you can do that. If not, I'm going to share an exercise and you can do that. What I want you to do is to focus on one of your hands. And now focus on the little finger on that hand. And as you breathe in silently in your head, you're going to say a word to yourself. Could be any word at all. Peace, calm, love, trust. Or any other word. And as you breathe out, you're going to say another word. Again, it could be one of those words or another word. Then you're going to go to your next finger and do the same thing. As you breathe in, you're going to say that word. As you breathe out, you're going to say that word. Then you're going to go to your next finger, the next finger, do the same thing. Your thumb, do the same thing. Then you're going to go back to your little finger. If you catch yourself thinking about something, I want you to just let go of that thought as if it's floating off in a cloud and go back to the exercise. If you lose your place, just choose a finger and carry on from that place. So let's just do this exercise. I'm going to set the timer for 2 minutes. So I want you to close your eyes if you haven't done so already. And let's just do this exercise for 2 minutes starting from now. Okay, so that's 2 minutes. Maybe you could just put in the chat 2 numbers. What number you were out of 10, with 10 being very calm and relaxed, before you started that exercise. What number are you now? So put that in the chat. Someone's just asked for my email. That's a good idea. I'll pop it in the chat now. Okay, so I've popped my email in the chat, support@mecfsexplored.com. So we've got a 5, now 9, a 3 to 8, 4 to 7. Fantastic. So that's great. Glad you found that beneficial. If you haven't done already, if you're in the Facebook group, you can access a free audio where I share that exercise. 3 to 7, great. 5 to 8, excellent. All right, so everyone's got an improvement in their score. So thanks everybody for participating and being with me on this Facebook Live. And if you have got any questions, do get in touch. But for now, I'm going to say bye. I hope you enjoy the Easter break. If, like us in the UK, you've got some bank holidays coming up. But for now, I will say goodbye.